Right, I've gone ahead and finished my second back page. So I've got a back and an inside cover, and I've also added a bit of the decorative paper on the bottom pocket there as well, just to give a bit more interest. So they're to go inside the back and front covers. So the next thing we need to do now is to make the hinges ready to attach our papers to the book. So the first thing you're going to need is an outside hinge. This is the part that goes on the book right at the very outside. Okay, and this is going to measure 7 inches by 3 3/4 for me. This is because the two MDF boards that I'm using for the covers of my book are measuring 7 inches long, but obviously this is personal choice. But if I was doing a 6 by 6 album, I would still like to have a little bit of room around for the front and back cover. That's just my personal way of doing things. So obviously, depending on what boards you've got, or whether you're just using cereal boxes, just bear in mind your measurements, but that's what mine are today. Now my hinges themselves are still going to measure 6 inches because my pages are 6 inches. So the pages themselves, the hinges themselves, are going to need 3 for this book because we've got 4 of the interactive pages. So I'm going to need 3 of these hinges. Okay, this is the outside spine bit, so I'm going to put that to one side so we don't get confused. So, and these are going to measure 6 inches by 3 inches. And I'm going to be scoring these at 1 1/4 inches and 1 3/4 inches. So I've done 2. So let's go ahead and do the third. So we need to score these at 1 1/4 inches and 1 3/4 inches. Now on this album, I'm allowing a 1/2 inch seam or allowance between the pages because the pages are interactive and they're quite bulky. I'm allowing a bit of an extra room on that. So there again, that is personal choice and that's your decision, depending on what pages you put in. If you remember the original album that we made, we only had a 1/4 inch gap between each of the pages because the pages were flat and we were just going to stick photos and a few embellishments on. So for this one though, because the pages are interactive and a bit bulkier, I'm going with the 1/2 inch on this particular album. So as I say, it's personal choice again, your decision. You know how big your pages are and what you're going to be putting in them. I've made 4 pages with you, so if you prefer 2 styles and want to stick to the 2 styles, you can. If you want to make an album with 6 pages, you can. It's entirely your decision. It's your album, so I'm just sort of showing you how to do things. So they're my 3 hinges. So now we need to go ahead and start putting our book together. So the first thing we need to do is we need to attach the cover to one of the spines. Okay, so that's just going to be stuck on there. So I'm going to use some thick double-sided tape for this. I'm not going to use wet glue. You can use wet glue if you wish, you just have to bear in mind that you do have to wait for it to dry. So just bear that in mind. That's why I'm going ahead and using some tape with you here today. I think I used wet glue in the original album and I did have to wait because things kept sliding about. So that's why I'm using tape here today. I'm going to put a double strip on because my tape's not quite wide enough to take that. This is a normal double-sided tape I'm using here, but it is a particularly strong one. If I was you, if your double-sided tape isn't very strong, I would use red line tape. You know, this red tape here, because that's very strong as well. So if not, I would use that tape. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this first one stuck down. I hope you're enjoying the tutorials and the fact that I work along with you. So feedback seems to be so I do hope I'm hitting the right notes. I'd love to hear from anybody. I'm just turning this round just for my personal just trying to attach it in the right place. I'd love to hear feedback from any of you. I have got a Facebook page, and I've also got the website dawnsinspirations.com. You can always contact me there and leave me an email. I'm always open to some more suggestions. If there's ways that you'd prefer me to do things, or topics you'd like me to do a tutorial on, please do feel free to get in touch with me. I have done a couple of topics by request, and I'm quite happy to do that. That's not a problem. I've just burnished that down. So that's going to be the inside cover of our page. So the next thing we then have to stick down is page 1. Now obviously the first album that we did, we just stuck page on page and then we put the paper on the top. But because these pages are interactive in this book, it's going to be slightly different. So the first thing we need to do is to stick that page on, but then we're going to go back to back. So let's get this page stuck down first. This is why I wanted to do this along with you, because it is slightly different to the 6x6 mini album in an hour. Obviously if you've been making this project along with me as well, you will know that obviously this is going to take a bit longer than an hour. But feedback is that people want to do, they've enjoyed the album so much they'd like to know ways of adding on to the album, which is absolutely great. And I've not got a problem with that at all, and I think that's great that you're all now being more confident that you want to add extra bits to your albums. I think that's wonderful. You know, I'm so glad that I'm inspiring you all to have a go at making mini albums and being creative. So let's get this other bit of tape off here. Now when we attach these pages, we can add an extra pocket if you wish. Don't have to, there again, personal choice. So this is page 1, if you remember. It had the open out bit and then opened again. So this time we're going to stick this piece onto here. So just take your time lining it up, just so you get it level. Press that down, I'm going to flip that over and I'm going to give that a good burnish on the back there. It's worth doing this, taking the time to do these little bits of extra burnishing and making sure your tape is stuck, because then you don't have your album falling apart as people starting to look at it. So that's the front cover on page 1. Now we turn over. Now we have to attach page 2, which opens up this way. Now we can cover the whole back with tape and glue and stick it on, or we can put tape all the way around 3 sides and leave this side open and add a tag. So that's why I'm saying this is now personal choice. I've cut some tags here ready, and I still think that might be a little bit wide. So I'm going to add tags with you today, just to show you that you can add tags. So don't be frightened that you can't add tags. So for this, I'm going to use some red line tape. This is a new one, so I'm going to have trouble getting in here, I can see. Let's get that first bit off. So I'm going to use red line tape round 2 of the sides, and then I'm going to use my white tape on the hinge bit itself. So I think I'm going to go. Put this, I need to put this right. To play up in under these lights. Put it right up as close to the edge as you can. Okay. This then means when the pages are stuck together, you're not going to get a gap in and they're falling apart. And as you can see, by using the same cardstock for the hinges and for the main pages, it all gives a nice uniformed look, which is what we like as crafters. I'm just going to burnish that down to get a good stick on this side of the paper before I peel it back and we go on to the other side. Okay, just make sure your pages are the right way up. I keep twisting things to get them where I want them. So that is going to go then onto there. It's going to create a pocket. Now the pocket I've cut is still going to be too big, so I'm going to trim a bit more off here. Let's just see what this that measured 5.5. I think I'm going to cut this down to 5 and do it 5 by 6, purely just so I can get it in and out of the pocket without any problems at all. I've rounded the corners of these, and I haven't put in any pattern paper on these at all at the moment. See, I've allowed a good gap in between so that can slide then in and out. And what I'm going to do is I've cut some little labels here. These are just cut out of a label tag that I had. So I pop some glue on there and we just let that be drying while we're putting the rest of the book together. I'm going to use these as big tags on their own this time. I'm not going to cut them in half because they're stuck inside the pages. I don't want them to get lost. So I'm actually going to stick them a bit more proud so they show. I'm just eyeballing the centre here. And what I'll do is turn that one over. You can attach the back, then that can be drying while I show you how to attach the next page. So that just gives you an extra photo mat to put an extra 2 pictures. So, which is always good because we like our albums to have lots of pictures in them. So I'll just leave that to dry there. That'll dry quite quickly under the lights. Now before we attach this onto here, we need to bring another one of our hinges in and join it onto page 2. So we need to join that onto page 2. So I'm going to just slide that up there out of the way, and we need to then join this page 2 onto another hinge, and I will show you why. Because if we're going to attach that onto there, that will then attach onto there to make the space for the next page. This is why it's slightly different to the 6 by 6 album in an hour, and that's why I wanted to join these pages with you today. So let's get some tape and run this down here. Ooh, sticking to everything under these lights. So get that there. That's where, like the first album, we just attached it and then we put the pattern papers over the top. Being these are interactive pages going back to back, it is slightly different. Still the same hinge system, but obviously slightly different in the respect that we need to add 2 hinges to each page. Got one of my hair stuck on there, but there we go. Stick that one down. So now we're attaching page 2 onto this hinge. So this is page 2 and this is going to open this way, so I'm attaching it to my hinge this side. I'm just going to twizzle it round so I find it easier to line up and see what I'm doing in the lights here. I'll bring it over a bit more, so you just take your time, make sure you've got it lined up properly. Turn it over and give that a good burnish. Right, I'm happy with that. So that is that way round. Now this page 2 with this hinge is then going to attach onto here. Now we want to make a pocket. So we still need to put some tape down here. So I think I might go with the red line tape again, because it is quite strong. I was going to put thicker tape, but I think because we've got the 2 hinges attached separately, I think I'm going to go with the red line tape. So there again, try and bring it as close up as you can to the edge. There's my bone folder, just give that a good burnish down. And peel these off. The only trouble with this red tape is so sticky. It wants to stick to everything other than the paper at the moment, and then it gets very static as well. What I'm going to try and do with this is I'm going to bend it halfway back so I can line it all up properly, because this is where you really do need to line up properly. Oh, come on, tape. There we go. Right, so I'm just going to push that to that side. I'm going to turn it so I can see what I'm doing. I hope you can all see me in camera shot. Yes, you can. Right, I'm going to just fold these back this way, and then we need to line this one up the right way. So I'm going to fold that back on itself to start with, so I can, because that's the only trouble with this red line tape. Once it is down, it is down. Right, I think I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, so I'm just checking it's all in alignment before I pull these tabs out. So now I'm happy, I can pull those out, those bits of tape, and then I'm just going to go ahead with my fingers and push that together. I think what I'm going to also do is open up all these interactive bits and really press that together. I'm going to lay that flat down like that and give that a burnish. And over on the other side as well. Right, let's lay all this back together and then you will see where we are. Right, there we go. So we've got, this is the part that's going to attach to our chipboard or MDF cover. That's the page, the front cover page with the tags. They're all sliding everywhere at the moment. This is page 1. And then we've got page 2. But we've got this gap in the middle here. We made a tag, so let's just see if that will fit in now. That we've made, we've stuck the pages together. Now the thing is, you've got that ridge at the bottom. Even though I've stuck it to one side, it's still blocking, as you see, it won't go through. So I can either play with it so it will go the right way round, it will go past that ridge, or I'm going to trim a bit more off this tag, because a reader will not, a reader of your album or the recipient of your album won't want to keep having to play to get it blocked in. So looking at that, I need to take about just under an inch off. It's not a problem, that's quite easily done. So we've tried that there, around the edges. This is where sometimes you think it's going to work and it's not, so not a problem. As I say, there's no right and wrong in crafting, we just work it out so things fit. You don't have to have this extra pocket in here, this is personal choice. I've just put it in because it's quite a nice way of adding some extra pictures. I might even, you can see it sticking out there, and that may well stick out on my chipboard cover when it happens. So I might have to trim a bit more off, but I'm not going to do it at this stage. I'm going to wait until we've got the book together, because I like the way that looks, that if we do have to trim a bit more off, I have got the tag. But if that shows too much, we will trim a bit more off. So that's not a problem. Right, this is page 2 with the hinge, so now we need to attach page 3. So I'm just going to lay this down like this to add my tape, because it's just a little bit easier like that. In fact, am I sticking my tape on the right side? No, I'm not. That's the trouble, I've laid it down that way and I'm sticking my tape onto the wrong side. Right, let's try it, start again. So page 3, it's got to attach on this side, so I can't lay it flat to make it easier for me to stick it down. Try to go right up to the score line. Stick that down. Get the knife and take that piece off, and then I'll put another piece next to it. That's why I say this book is slightly different to the other one. Another good hinge system to use, I've shared with you a couple of hinge systems on my YouTube video, and it's quite nice to have different ones to use for different albums, and some people find one particular hinge system easier than another, which is absolutely fine. And if you want to stick the same hinge system, that is not a problem as well. So I've got the tape stuck to this side, and this is going to attach page 3. So we're bringing page 3, and this is going to attach on this side here. So I need to line this up. Take your time again, just line it up with the score line until you're happy. I'm just going to open it up so I can burnish it down, take that tag out. Just so I can get a nice good stick on there, because it does help. Right, that's nicely stuck on there. Now we can make another pocket if you wish to attach the next page to, which I think perhaps we will do, and then I've shown you how to add the pocket. If you don't want to add the pocket, you just put tape all the way around. Okay, so let me go ahead and just add the tape to this, ready, and then we'll go ahead and attach page number 4. You can see it's all starting to come together quite nicely. You don't have to use 4 individual styles of pocket if you don't want to. The choice is entirely yours, and if you feel that you want to go and just use 2 styles because you prefer those 2, that is your personal choice, and that's why I think it's so nice that I'm giving you some ideas and then you're using your own creativity to make your albums. That burnish down there. Right, that's now all ready, but we now need to attach page 4. So we bring another hinge in so we can attach page 4. And this was page 4, the waterfall album. So this now needs to attach onto here. So I'll just slide that one up so you can see what I'm doing. So I've opened my album up and I'll put my tape right up close again to the score line. Take that off. Now if your tape's wide enough for these bits, that's all well and good. You don't have to do this double taping that I'm doing. But if it isn't, it's just worth doing, because obviously you don't want your book falling apart as soon as someone starts looking at it. So, and these hinges, it's just worth taking the time to make sure your hinges are all, you know, nicely stuck and level. So just take that last piece of tape off there. Tuck that end in that's sticking out. Let's get rid of this mess out of the way. Right, now we're going to attach this piece onto here. I'm just going to turn it round because I'm finding in the light it's easier to see. That's it. All stuck down, and that's ready then to be attached onto here. Okay, so we can now go ahead and take the red tape off again. Down to let me. I'm going to try and do the same as we did on the first one. I'll bring the 2 wings back. With the lights I've got on here, it's just really gone sticky. Right, that's it, first one's off. That's always a good sign, get one off. As I say, I'm going to make another pocket on this page. If you didn't want to make your pocket, what I would suggest you do is put either red line or really sticky tape on all 4 sides, and even put a bit of wet glue in the middle. It's just so you know then your book is nice and secure. So if you didn't want to add the pockets, you don't have to. So let's get this piece off here. And particularly awkward. So down again. So put a crease in it. That's it. Right. So we can now go ahead and make another pocket. So as I say, if you didn't want to make a pocket, tape down there as well and wet glue in the middle, and I'd either use your Cal-El all purpose or PVA glue for that. So we'll now try and get a nice edge on this. I'm just going to turn it round again so I can get it nicely lined up. As I say, just take your time lining your pages up, because with this red tape, once you're down and you can't move it. I'm just going to lift them up to make sure I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we can now pull that one out and pull that one out. There's a bit out of the way, they're all sticking to everything. Just going to lift that up. I'm going to open my pocket now to try and get a burnish on here, where I've put the tape, which is along that top there, down that seam, and along that bottom. My little tags keep falling out this front one, which is a bit of a pain, so they can go back inside there. Right, so that's all now starting to come together. So we can make another tag to go inside here. I've got one here all prepped, ready. I think the same thing is going to happen. It's going to stick itself on that side as it goes down. Yes, it's sticking itself already, so I'm going to take a slither off the sides. This is where, for your mats, I would do them as you're going, because it just makes it a bit easier. And I think that's going to have to be 5 as well. Let's try that. Just round these edges off. It's because we've got the hinge with that folded piece, even though it's stuck totally on one side, it's still catching. So let's just see if that fits. And it's quite nice to use this space in your album, because basically it's dead space otherwise, and if you can add an extra couple of photos, I think it's great. So I've got another 2 different tags cut here out of some scraps of the paper that I had left. So that makes my tag now measure 5 by 5, if anybody is interested, just so you know. We might have to trim it down when we put our cover on, but we can look at that at the end when we get the cover on our book. So I'll just pop this on here, this can be drying, while we add our last page. It's all starting to come together. Right, so we're just going to pop that one in there for now. Might have to trim that down again when we put the front and back covers on, but we'll have a look at that at the time, okay? So I want to go ahead now, and we're going to attach the last page of our book, which is another pocket page here, and that's just going to be attached on the front there. So get some tape on here. I still think you could do this project in an afternoon. I mean, I've managed to do it in a morning here, so I still think it's doable in an afternoon. Or if you don't feel very confident, do it over a couple of afternoons or a morning. I always say don't rush doing these albums, you know, just take your time and work at a pace that suits you. The beauty of having the video tutorials is you can pause them at any time. If the phone rings or the doorbell goes, you can just pause the video and come back to it. Another thing I have been doing is breaking my videos down into stages. Like with this one, we've done page 1, page 2, purely because I know crafters are busy and you can't always sit and watch all of the videos in one go, and it also means that if you have done page 1 but haven't done page 2, you can then start a new video rather than having to watch all the way through that you've seen and forwarding it on. So I'm hoping it's made it easier by breaking the videos down into little chunks for you. So that's that back page now on. To just give that a... So now we're ready to attach this to our front and back covers. Now you can see already the album taking shape, and by giving 1/2 inch here on the I suppose you'd call it the hinge, on the hinge system here, it's given that bit of extra room, because at the moment no photos are added to this album, so once the photos are added it will bulk out a bit more, so it's still got room to move, which I think is absolutely great. So we can go ahead now and start attaching this to our album.